It's all about a community pulling together to accomplish something and all for a common good and a common cause.
This is Gary Schweikauskas with the HV1 Podcast, and we're pleased to have Nina Postupak, the county clerk, here today. I was thinking, Nina, this morning, I got up and I just suddenly thought of how in the old days, people used to not pay their taxes, but instead work 2 or 3 days for the highway department every year.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah, very true, right?
And in a sense, that was the communal politics that existed at one time, back in the Dutch and afterwards days.
I think, it's interesting, Gary, that you bring that up, because I think so many things that are in our records, and when you go back in history, how you can equate them to today and the things that are happening to us today, and how history is really a revolving door that just keeps going around and tying us all together.
Yeah, and there is that kind of communal aspect of it that I really enjoy, the sense of people knowing each other and being comfortable with each other and helping each other. And it's a sort of an ideal of service that I think that you pioneer or you follow in the county clerk's office. And it just, that somehow there was once a system that was based on people knowing each other, but also on owing each other favors and stuff like that, a patronage system.
Right.
So we used to have a Republican patronage system. Now we have a Democratic one in many ways.
Well, it's funny. When I was thinking about coming today, one of the things which is very near and dear to my heart, and I know to yours also, is the Person House. And when you talk about communal and working together and so forth, if someone asked me, list some of the things that you really feel are not my greatest accomplishments, but the greatest accomplishments of the office, one of them would be the Person House, because of that very same reason that you're mentioning. Because the Person House was just an idea when we decided to take it over under the county clerk's wing, and at that time I went to Mike Hine and said we would like to open this as a county museum. He said, fine, but I don't have any funding for you or any mechanisms to do that. It's totally up to you. And through the help of people like Rob Sweeney at the Old Dutch Church and Jane Keller at Friends of Historic Kingston, we said, you know what, let's pull all the organizations together and let's try to open the house and have an organization host it every weekend and showcase some of their exhibits and their records and what's specific to them. And that's how the Person House came to be. And without any money but a community working together, in this case an historical community, we were able to open the Person House, and it is what it is today. It's a vibrant museum that over thousands of people walk through it every single year, and there's permanent exhibits in it now. We have 16 weekends of historical societies, organizations, and even people not involved with history that actually come to the house. And so I do believe what you're saying. It's all about a community pulling together to accomplish something and all for a common good and a common cause.
You know what? In the Person House, there are exhibits that show all kinds of things. But my favorite exhibit is one that you can't see.
Oh, really?
And that is that if you go to the basement and you see the floor, and they explain to you how little artifacts, pieces of pottery and stuff like that, and buttons were found there. They also say that they dug down and they found underneath 2 burn lines.
Yes.
And the first burn line is the burning of Kingston, and the second is the Revolution when the British burned it again.
Yes.
And I just love the idea of a piece of history uncovered and then buried again, just so that it can be kept for posterity.
Absolutely true. And I think for us in the county clerk's office, the way we tell history many times is through the documents, because that's what's in our possession. And that's why the house is so special to us, because the house tells a story in a very different way. And I think you're quite right. When you look at the burn marks, that is telling the story of history, the burning of Kingston, the British coming through, or the artifacts. And some of those artifacts date back to 3000 BC. We go, quite a bit back there. And it's Joe Diamond's dig that he did. And those artifacts are actually an exhibit that will be available for people to see this year. There'll be the, the projectiles, the Bakken, so many different things that were done through the dig that we're able to actually showcase. And a lot from Dutch colonial time artifacts will be on exhibit at the house. And another unique thing about the house, and I'm sure you've noticed this on occasion, when you go to most museums, they try to recreate what the house looked like in that era. The period of furniture, the period paint and so forth. The Person House, we are down to the rafters. So you are seeing it in an architectural sense as opposed to in a period time, which I think is so important. You can see the different ways that they constructed the roofing. And
well, I love that false roof, the early attached roof with the roof on top of it. It's a roof on top of a roof.
Yes.
And just seeing that, you suddenly get a new way of the levels of which history is put together.
Yeah, very, very true. Right. And, of course, we know that Gijsberg van Embrock was the first resident of the house, but the Person House is named after the longest person that lived in there the longest, Matthew's Person.
Yes.
So to follow the history of the house itself until the time it came into the hands of the county, and it was actually a county office building, it's just an amazing the progression of where the building started and where it is today.
Well, it reminds me of a progression, the list of Ulster County clerks somewhere,
yes.
where it ends with Nina Postupak, and it begins, God knows, the guy, not Dysart, I don't know one of the early ones.
George Clinton, I think.
It was 1671 or something like that.
Yes. George Clinton was the first county clerk.
Imagine, it's like, it's like the kings of England. It's a genealogy.
It's a very humbling experience when you become an elected official in many ways. I think the reality of the situation is you realize that the people in your community, the residents of the county, put their faith in you and for me to run the county clerk's office. And that's a huge responsibility. And when I became county clerk, I had the advantage of being in the clerk's office for quite a few years prior to that, right? I started in 1979 and I became county clerk in 2006. But what that allowed me to do, I had a vision of what I thought the county clerk's office could become, and that was the exciting part to me. And one of the components was the history part of it, and the other component was the technology to really bring it into the 21st century.
Now, occasionally I go out, and I haven't seen a couple for a year or two, I think, but there's Al Spada's car parked illegally across the street from the place he goes for coffee at the corner.
Okay.
And I love to see Al. I'd love to see Al occasionally. Al was sort of a bridge, wasn't he, between the kind of old way of doing things, or the way which patronage and favoritism were not unknown, to sort of favoritism for everybody, which is, I think, your model.
Yes, a wonderful point. He was a great mentor and teacher in the fact that it didn't matter who walked into the office or what was needed. He was there to help everyone, and it didn't necessarily have to be in the county clerk's office. And I try to carry that motto through. So many times people come in and they may have a question in regard to something in social services, benefits, and so forth. And being in the county for 45 years, I can cross those divides, and I can help people navigate those waters. And it really, and the county has grown over the years service-wise. You have the Office of the Aging now. You have Veterans Administration. So many different departments that are there to help with services. And you probably find this many times, it's getting the word out and letting people know what resources are available. Because many times they just don't know how to find out what is there for them. And there's so many resources that are available. So I feel blessed because every day I feel like I can make an impact in someone's life or make someone, just help them in some way. And we're very lucky when we wake up in the morning, we do something that we love. And I know you love what you do, so you probably
Sure
can
do.
relate to what I'm saying. And you are able to do it with the pen. Well, now it's completely different, but with pen and paper, and get that word out to people.
Well, I know that, I remember in the, I guess, probably 80s when basically there was a tag team. Pete Savego was the mean guy. He was the kind of a lot of bluster and talk, and very much the people who liked him, he liked, basically.
Right.
And then there was Al, who was certainly at least as well connected politically, and more so in Albany, than Pete. And they were sort of a tag team, the good guy and the bad guy. And when it came to Al wanting to retire, he wanted you to be his successor very badly. So what did he do? Support you in the next election? No. He resigned. George Pataki appointed you, and you went in as an incumbent. So that's kind of a nice gesture of transition from one kind to another kind of service.
Yes, that's very true. And I think this, being with your paper, it's a legacy. It's your life. It's not a job. It's not something we do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's a commitment, and it's part of us and who we are, and it defines who we are. So I think Al saw that when he was leaving, and he knew that I had the same love, the same commitment, the same dedication to the office and to the county. And to be able to take that baton and hand it over to someone and know that they are going to continue your legacy is just something that not many people have the opportunity to do. So I felt blessed, and I think in his own way, he felt blessed also, that we were able to do that. And it's been wonderful. I've been county clerk 16 years. I'm now into my fourth term, going, on to 20 years. So
and you were so roundly hated in some circles that they nominated you for both parties.
Yes, this would be true. And I have to say, for me, it really was the ultimate. What's the word I'm looking for?
Accolade?
Yes, thank you. Yes, that really what I've done and what I've hoped to do these past 16 years and continue to do is that I represent everyone. And when you get elected to an office, at least in the county clerk's office, you're no longer a Republican or a Democrat. You're there to serve all the people of the county. And I just felt that for me, it meant so much. And I think the way that it happened, that I actually got the Democratic endorsement from the floor and a vote. And it was people that lives we've touched each other. And because of that, they had a lot of confidence in me, and they stood up at the convention and nominated me. And I think that meant more to me than anything. So, yeah. And when people say to me, people on both sides say, I can't believe you took this endorsement, or whatever the case may be, I say, I feel blessed, and I feel like I've really done my job as county clerk. So that's how I feel.
I want to mention this point because we're still very sad about the death of Donna Keefe from COVID. Donna was a wonderful, giving, the person who personified the kind of spirit you're talking about. She was she lived for others, and she was always giving of herself.
Yes, that's so very true. And you'll see that people don't understand that when you're in public service, like the DMV or in the recording area, the county clerk's office, as Donna was, she was in our DMV, you don't realize it really takes a certain person to deal with the public on a daily basis. Sometimes people that aren't happy, and unfortunately for us, many of the things that we do is pushed down from the state onto us. So those are not rules or regulations obviously, that those employees make or that our office makes, but that the state makes. And but people, we're the front line, and people are aggravated or they're frustrated or they don't understand. And those employees really have to have a true feeling of compassion for people and able to work on a daily basis with the public. And Donna was one of those people.
I think that they do. I recently got my a new license plate for my car. I went in and I didn't have it together, and somehow the person who worked there has worked there 18 years, knows that, was very kind. And then when I came back, I got a special license plate. There's a good old days thing. 7,000. It is. And people are, a number, you got a wrong number. And I just kind of think of that as a beautiful gesture.
Yes. Very, very true. Yeah.
Now we're here today also to talk about, you got an award for your history.
Oh, I did.
Study recently. And then I wanted to get into the case of the person we know and love who you're commemorating in an exhibit.
Yes. Yes, I did receive an award, the Martha Washington Women of History Award, last week at Washington's headquarters down in Newburgh. But Getty, really, that was an award, I feel, for the archives, for our whole program. Because of our team, we're able to promote history and we're able to accomplish the things that we do. And our archives is so vibrant and creative. And we've really been able to reach out to the community with our exhibits, with our teaching packets, with the Person House. And because of that, the Hall of Records, yes, everything there, our archival vault. It's just an amazing program. And I have to say, Alice Lawless, Lori Hancock, and myself really were the team that's worked from the start on that program. And we were together when it was just an idea on a piece of paper. Yep. And we grew it to what it is today. And that's through teamwork. And Taylor Brook is a wonderful addition to our program. He's our archivist now. He's young. He's energetic. He brings a lot of knowledge in the technology field. He is the city historian, so he wears many hats. He's a reenactor for the First Militia. So we really have so many components of the archives that all work together. And if I could just plug for a minute our website, please go on our website, clerk.ulstercountiny.gov. There's online exhibits. There's databases you can search, naturalization records, census records. The old Dutch records are all online with the translations. So there's quite a bit there to see. You can do a virtual tour, the Person House. So no matter where you are in the country, in the world, you can visit the Ulster County Archives.
I think people who come up here, they want to feel part of what's here.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't know how, and maybe they buy antiques at very high prices or stuff like that. But everything, you look around the landscape, everything connects to everything else.
It does.
In a way that you can not just say, well, that's nice, but appreciate in the sense of you become an owner, a participant.
Yes, that's very true. You're part, I think that's why history is so important, because history tells you about your past and it brings you into the present, and it really looks to what the future will bring. And that's how it ties us all in together.
Yeah, it's amazing how, as an unreconstructed old hippie, that I became somehow enchanted by being part of this. And it wasn't so much the people or the lifestyle, although that was important, but it was the sense of being becoming part of something and being part of it in a way which wasn't possible in a more in a more urban setting, I guess.
That's so true. This brings to mind something that we do every year, and I think this has impacted me tremendously. We do the renewal of the treaty every year with the Ramapo Chief Man, and we exchange gifts and so forth. And just a little bit of history there. The 1655 Nichols Treaty is in our archives, as well as the original wampum belt.
Is that wonderful?
Yes, and talk about the community and that sense of community. The first year we did it was a quadricentennial, and I was given as a gift a condolence pipe. And something that stuck with me that day, Getty, is they said, we're not giving you this condolence pipe as your position as an elected official or your position in the county, but as an individual in Ulster County.
Yep.
And they said, we want you to keep this in your home, and every year we want to continue this tradition. And we've done it 5 times since then, and we exchange gifts every time. We do the smudging and the drumming. And last year we did it at the Shocam Reservoir. And I can't explain to you the spirituality of it, and the it just, there's a presence there, and a part of community that you wouldn't otherwise ever know without doing something like this. So I hope for years to come, I hope my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, that this will carry on for many generations, because it's just an amazing experience. We're hoping to do it down at the Maritime Museum this year, so we'll see what happens in the summer. And we want to do it on the Clearwater, and we're hoping Paul Tobin to do a planting of a tree at the Maritime Museum if they're agreeable to that. So each year it grows, and I really, for anyone who listens to this podcast, it's open to the public, and it's an amazing experience.
Well, let's take a much more contemporary experience, that of Gail Brownlee.
Yes.
Gail, my wife this morning said that she loved talking to Gail, who was selling real estate. They would talk, and Gail was very nice to her, and remembered that. We remembered other people in the business, and Gail somehow she was the granddaughter of Mortimer Downer, the Woodstock doctor, very well connected in Woodstock, but then I guess you could see her as a hat check. Beautiful hat check girl somewhere, taking coats and giving numbers in return for them, and then a model and a photographer and a photographer's model, and a whole bunch of other things. And when she came up here, she was selling real estate and flying. And Gail was she was terrific. She was just a warm, wonderful person who just was herself in all circumstances, and you could see that she carried with her the history, the way personal history, experiential, as well as history of the area, the texture of it, and in a really nice way, and was practically always positive too. And although she had an edge of sarcasm that she took out on occasion, and I just that's the kind of person we'd want to, I think, bear testimonial to.
Yes,
and you do.
Thank you. So, a quick story how we actually decided to do that. We were reading the history of Kingston, and there was a story in there where she had been approached to be part of the celebration, the 350th anniversary of Henry Hudson sailing up the Hudson River in 1959. And they asked her, you mentioned that she was a model, and she had her own label in New York City garment industry. So she also went with the USO and entertained the troops. So she was beautiful. And because of her beauty, they asked her if she would be the Witch of the Catskills, and she would ride on this float half moon, a replica of the half moon. So she agreed. And the day of the event, when they were going to process all through Ulster County, she shows up on the float in a naval costume and as Miss Henry Hudson. And the men in the committee that had asked her were angry. This was not the image that they were looking for. So she proceeded to travel at the helm of the half moon, and people loved it. And that story captured the essence of her for us.
Yeah.
And we said, this is an individual that we would want for Women's History Month. There's a theme every year for Women's History Month. I don't know if people realize that. And this one was promoting hope and providing healing. And she did that in so many ways. And we just thought, once we start to really research her life, we were just amazed at the things that she accomplished. She was the first woman ever to have a pilot's license at Kingston Airport. She brought the International Women's aviation, the branch to Ulster County. She was part of the Whirly Girls, which was the helicopter international group, and she started 99, which was the regional group here in Ulster County. And she also did the fire watches all over the Catskills. She would fly. She was quite an aviator in her time, especially for a woman. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And then, of course, she did all the fundraising for the heliport that is at Benedictine Hospital, which was named after her grandfather, which you had mentioned, Mortimer Downer. And she was an activist also. And one of the things that she really fought against was Central Hudson putting the coal-burning power plant on the Hudson River by the Kingston-Rhinecliff Bridge. And she was successful in not having that occur. So amazing, amazing woman. We had her family members. So the exhibit, for those of you that want to see it, it is in the lobby of the county office building. And we had her whole family come and actually 10 members view the exhibit. And it was remarkable to talk to them and their memories of her and how she impacted her family. So and it will be at the Person House in August. For Aviation Day and International Women's Day. So you can also see it there in August.
So it's an honor to translate that kind of life. This is an example of what you're talking about in terms of both of service, but also of commitment to what you're doing, which you certainly have, and I have to some degree.
Yes, we both do, right? Yes, we do. You more so than me, Gaddy. How many years have you been here, and with your newspaper, and how many years have you been in journalism?
A long time, but you mentioned 1959 as the year, and that was the year I graduated from college.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
I lived my hippie life for 10 years in the village, and then came up to Woodstock, where there were a lot of us. And where we were, I think, we wanted to live our own life, and were critical of the kind of the humdrum life of everybody. But then we began to appreciate more how that there was more to that than was obvious to us at first. And I think history was one of the doors that made it possible for us to both to see more and to think more, but also to appreciate more. I lost that that kind of oppositional sense over time, as I learned to appreciate some of the things that I now do, and I feel in my old age quite satisfied.
Yeah, that's important, though. That's a really great point that you make, because, as we get older, and myself too, you look back and you look at what you've done. And I look at what you've done and the power of the pen and the power of the word. I see it in the documents, but you've done it through the newspapers and through the written word. It's such a powerful way of getting a message out. It's so important. And I think throughout the years, do you find that communicating to people to get that word out, it's difficult at times. And now social media has just exploded, and things like the podcast and Facebook and Instagram, and you can go on and on, are so many different ways to get that word out.
I think that life has become, maybe training has become overly professionalized. They make journalists, they make social workers, they make people who are trained in a certain way. And I really think that they should throw all that out, give a classical education, and teach people to love being people.
So true. It's so true. And sometimes you have to go with your heart and your passions, and when you do, that's when you're the most successful, because those are the things that shine through. Those are the things that you're committed to and you're dedicated to. And and we have such a wonderful community, right? And so diverse. You go from Woodstock to Saugerties to Marlborough. And that's why I think for us, and with the history, how we tie Ulster County together and show how diverse it is, but yet how unified in the same time.
So that's it, folks. You remember one thing: go with your heart, go where it takes you, and believe in and commit yourself to what you're doing, because that's the way to be truly human. Thank you.
Thank you.